is a prepaid collect call from
Thomas.
an incarcerated individual at New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
One of the major reasons I'm doing this is because I do not belong in prison. I have numerous times sat in rooms with my lawyer, and the district attorney has told him on numerous occasions, we have no evidence on Thomas. We have no smoking gun that ties into this case. And when my lawyer, Ray Schlatter, would ask them, now why are you taking him to trial? His answer was, I think I can win. Well, that attitude is what lands people in prison for crimes they don't commit.
Help me, my wife. She's dead. Hurry. Anybody else in the house, Tom? Just you? The neighbor's house. Okay, where's she at? Oh, I came home and my daughter said there was a robber in the house and she saw them.
Looks like blood spatter, blood on the wall. Where were you when this all went down?
Playing poker with my buddies. I came home and my daughter said there was a robber in the house and she saw them.
You gotta chill out there, man. Let me see your hands real quick, man. You ain't hurt or anything? Okay, good. Okay. I want you to have a seat. You don't need to see that anymore, okay? Just take some deep breaths, okay? I know, yeah. Just take some deep breaths and stuff. Just try to stay calm.
Pass out.
Well, sit down then. Come on over here and sit down.
I just
I think he attacked her.
First instinct is to trust the police, to trust what they're doing, trust the process, right? But as time unraveled very quickly, I could see them, he's like, don't let him move, keep him by the car. And I could tell, knowing when the cops had already said in my house, that they were directly looking at me.
Clayton coming back at him. They're near the honors bench. You are trying to get his left hamstring. Slam Clayton into a board. Overhand right, and he just saw Clayton coming back at him.
You just want to, you want to drop your guards. You want to fight someone. Just like when you're a little kid and you get so mad, you just want to fight.
Victorious in both these fights here in the third period.
So he got arrested. They claimed he wasn't arrested, but he was arrested. He was in handcuffs. He was brought to New York State Police Barracks in Painted Post because it didn't have any video cameras in it. And the police department in Corning had video cameras in it. That's why he was brought there. Same with Michael. Michael Beard was interviewed at the Painted Post, which had no video cameras, and then the Corning Police Department had video services.
I was at the police station originally. The cops kept asking me, come on, just tell us you did it. You'll get 5 to 7 years in prison. We can all go home. This will be over quick and easy. And then, when I wouldn't speak to them, they started getting aggressive with me, calling my wife a bitch, trying to antagonize me. So then they asked me to take a polygraph test at the police station. I said, yes, absolutely. Go get the equipment. I'll take it right now. Hook me up, whatever. So they left the room, and the polygraph was never brought up again.
They determined a polygraph wouldn't be in their best interest because they, probably in their heart of hearts, they knew he wasn't lying, but they wanted him anyway. And if they had done a polygraph and he passed and kept, you can't really, I don't think they could have Probably what the problem was, if they gave him a polygraph and he passed it, they couldn't arrest him.
Decided to press charges, and they came in and stood me up and handcuffed me, saying that they were taking me to the town gate to arraign me on murder charges. When they arrested Mike, then the charges went from murder to murder one, capital murder, murder for hire, because Mike said that I had paid him to do this.
Evidence that may well lead to charging murder one here, which is it's a higher level felony, involves the possibility of life without parole as a penalty.
We have continuing coverage this afternoon of the alleged murder of Kelly Clayton. New this afternoon, bail has been set for Kelly's husband, Thomas, who was accused of killing her in their Caton home last week. WENY's Logan Wilson.
Jennifer, Thomas Clayton is now charged with first-degree murder and 2 other counts of second-degree murder. A Steuben County grand jury indicted Clayton on all 3 charges today. The top count of first-degree murder alleges Clayton hired Michael Beard to kill his wife, Kelly. If convicted, Clayton faces life in prison without the possibility of parole.
That was just wrong. And I don't know where that information came from, but the district attorney, he decided to arrest Thomas, and then he announces to the world and the media through a press release that they arrested Kelly's killer, her husband Thomas, and he was going to target his children as well. And there was no evidence whatsoever to support that, none. So like I said, if you're a local citizen and you read that in a paper, how can you unread that? I mean, it's there. You're going to remember that. You get called as a juror, you're going to remember that still, even though what they claimed happened never happened.
We have to build our case piece by piece. You were the hitman, you killed her, and that's that.
Thomas Clayton had approached Michael Beard about burning his house down for $10,000.
A sociopath.
Michael Beard confessed to being hired by Thomas Clayton to murder Kelly Clayton.
He gave him $10,000 to kill his wife and burn down his house.
He just didn't want to be married anymore. I think
Michael Beard. He had mentioned to me divorce was never going to be a possibility because she would have taken care of her.
So the police, Thomas reported a robbery, that the children were screaming that there was a robber in the house. Thomas told somebody that there is a cash box that is missing. Under cross-examination, investigator Lewis was asked, so you were told that there was money in a safe under the bed sometime between 3 or 4 in the morning, is that correct? Correct. It was certainly before 7:45 in the morning, was it not? Yeah, absolutely. Investigator Fifield, who is with the Forensic Investigative Unit, I said forensic. He was asked if he ever did any forensic testing of the gun safe. The overall answer was no. Did you open the safe? Yes. What day was it that you opened the safe? September 30th. And in the safe, I think you said that among other things, you observed some money wrappers, right? Yes. Did you take those money wrappers into custody? No. How many money wrappers did you find? I do not recall. Did you put any black powder on the safe? No. Did you use any luminance on the safe? No. Did anybody put luminance on the safe? No. Did anybody put black powder on the safe? No. Did you swab it for DNA? No. When I asked about putting black powder, nobody. No. You were aware that, in fact, Mr. Clayton had said that there had been money maintained in a safe under his bed, under the bed upstairs, as well as in the safe in the basement. You were aware of that, were you not? No, sir. Nobody told you that? No. So the fact is that nobody took those paper wrappers into custody or otherwise attempted to process them. Is that accurate? That is accurate. You recognize that, in fact, if they had held money and somebody had stolen the money, their fingerprints may very well be on their wrappers. Do you not? Yes. In terms of processing, nobody dusted those wrappers or attempted to lift any prints from those wrappers. Is that accurate? There was no sign of forced entry into the safe.
There was a lot of things that kind of raised some flags.
There were no signs of forced entry or robbery.
I think that was kind of the perspective was, okay, we have no evidence of a robbery.
When the police arrived, it didn't look like there was any forced entry.
The side door's open, that door's open, no forced entry on either one of them. I just want to make sure there's no forced entry.
Law enforcement has stated that there was no forced entry. This is a true statement. There was no forced entry. There did not need to be.
He knew how to get in. Tom's former employees that worked for Paul Davis, which was another service similar to CERPRO, they stored all the equipment and they worked out of Tom's garage. Basically, that's where everything was kept. So they'd come and go whenever they wanted to. And if Tom wasn't there, they knew where the keys were, and that's just what they did. All the equipment was there, the humidifiers or dehumidifiers and the fans, all the things they needed in their work that they did, including Michael Beard. You know, he worked for Paul Davis, and then later, he got fired from Paul Davis, and then, he was such a good worker that when Tom went to CERPRO, they brought him back, gave him another chance.
He would show up on time. He was always there, ready, willing, and able to work. So I kept giving him more opportunities for employment as I was getting busier and busier every day. And I would always ask Kevin, how's he doing? Is he working hard? And Kevin's like, yeah, he's great. He always works hard, does what he's asked, never complains. He's always willing to work, no matter what time. Day, morning, early mornings, Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, he didn't care. Michael came to me and said, whenever you have work, I'm always available. Call me anytime you want. So I said, okay, this is an investment worthy of someone that I'm willing to give him a chance. And in conversations I had with Mike, it seemed like he was never really given a real opportunity of employment at a place that could keep him working consistently. So I just felt that he deserved an opportunity.
The real reason Michael Beard went up there, he didn't go there to kill Kelly. He didn't go there to burn the house down. He lost his job. He was desperate for money. He was arguing with his wife about being able to feed the kids, and he was looking for another job. Tom was trying to help him. A number of places he was reaching out, trying to help him find a job. A roofing company and the Finn Academy, I can't remember what they do there, and Friendlies. There was at least 3 or 4 places where Tom was trying to help him out. He says, recently we've been having some money problems. We couldn't pay the rent and get stuff for the kids. Mike had been fired from CERPRO, and we were hurting. Mike came to me last week and said that Tom had offered him $10,000 to burn down his house.
That's all them talking.
That's them telling you.
Yeah, because like I said, the conversation that me and Mike had, Tom told us we was good on the rent as long as we was out by the first. So no, we didn't have to pay the rent. We just needed to be in our new apartment that was more affordable for us by the first.
And all that time, Tom is trying to help Mike find a job.
Yes.
He was hurt. He was really desperate for it. So the only reason he went up there that night, I honestly believe that his only intention was to go up there, sneak in, grab some quick cash, and get out. Nobody would even notice. He knew where the money was kept. Tom had a safe downstairs, but he also would have known about the lockbox under the bed. He knew there was money there, and he knew that if nobody was home, he could get in and out late at night, and by the time anybody came home and discovered it, he'd be long gone. So we wouldn't be here today if that was the scenario. But what he didn't know was that the only one who wasn't going to be home was Tom. And I was telling her the other day, I don't know if you knew this, but when they examined Michael Beard's pants, the ones he disposed of, there was feces in them. So he shit his pants. I think I would too if I'm an adult. You know, you walk into that bedroom, you think nobody's going to be there, and there's Kelly.
Looks like she was attacked in bed.
This was an extremely brutal attack, a very gruesome situation.
Donald Lewis, the Steuben County Sheriff's Office lead investigator, was on the scene that night.
There was some sort of attack in the upstairs area.
We checked the safe. We checked her jewelry. There was no sign of theft at all. I think that was kind of the perspective was, okay, we have no evidence of a robbery.
Interesting. When you watch the ABC 2020 shows and all the media shows showing the master bedroom and the bed in the master bedroom, and on the left-hand side, we're looking at the foot of the bed, and that's the side that Kelly slept on. You'll see like a blue t-shirt on the floor, and then you'll see the skirt, the bed skirt, pulled down. What is interesting, that the police photo that was taken September 29th, 2015 at 8:16 a.m. shows the bed skirt up. And that is where the cash box was located underneath the bed. And again, at September 29th, 2015, 8:16, the only people that have been in the house since Thomas was removed around 1 a.m. were police, law enforcement. And the police picture clearly shows that the bed skirt is up.
Did you ever know how much money Kelly kept in the house? Did Mike ever tell you about that?
No.
How much was there, about any safes or anything like that?
Okay. I didn't know nothing about that safe until Kevin got on the stand and was talking about him and Michael knew about the safe.
Who told you this?
Kevin?
Kevin Morris?
Yeah, when he was on stand and he was talking about the safe.
Well, there's two safes in the house. One was a big floor safe down in the basement. Was that the one he was talking about?
I don't know.
Because
Like
then there was another little, like a mini safe, just a cash box under the bed.
I didn't know nothing about no safes until Kevin mentioned it up on the stand.
So I physically observed the cash box on the dining room table in August 2015. And that same weekend, I was putting in a sliding glass door and I needed help. So Michael Beard, Mr. Beard, he came over. Thomas told him one time to show up. He showed up. He helped me with the door. He walked right past the cash box. So he has seen the cash box. He has also painted in their bedroom, in their master bedroom. There was some furniture up and stuff that he had painted, and he painted some baseboard and stuff. So if he was rooting around, he knew there was a cash box under the bed. And I know he saw the cash box on the dining room table because it was there when we were putting the door in.
They knew where I was. I was playing poker with my friends. They knew there was no way possible for me to be able to do this. So that's where the phone call comes into play.
The phone call from the poker game.
That was the smoking gun.
A smoking gun revealing what investigators believe was a sinister murder for hire.
Interestingly, the only phone call that the police zeroed in on was the one at 10:53 that occurred from Linda Miller's phone to Michael Beard's phone that Thomas placed while he was at the Miller residence playing poker that night.
I got to the poker game around 8 o'clock at night. Show up, there's a bunch of guys there, and like I said, my house is out in the woods, and my neighbors love to hunt. Now, one of the neighbors across the street owned a couple hundred acres, and he had a bunch of buddies that would hunt on his land. And he said, well, tomorrow morning around 9:30, I have 6 deer blinds being delivered to the hunting property. Now, these deer blinds weighed a couple 100 pounds each. So he said, would you be able to help me carry these things? And I said, well, I have a guy that works for me.
It was 10:53. He excused himself at about 10:53 from the table, went and called Michael and said, I got work for you to install deer blinds. Do you want it or don't? If you do, show up.
There were 6 or 7 other guys sitting right there at the table who all testified to this at the trial. The conversation about the deer blinds and helping this guy carry them. Now the reason we had to help him as well is because he had Parkinson's. He couldn't lift any of them. He couldn't do it himself. And no one else was available to be able to help. So I offered to help him when he asked. And now that right there is the reason why I called Michael after 10 o'clock on that night.
Clayton called asking him to come to the house the night of the murder.
And why is all this happening so late at night?
Doing a 24/7 restoration company, calls could come in at any time.
Did Tom Clayton come to you with a proposal?
No, not a proposal of anything. It's like the way they portrayed it to be.
Okay, well, tell me what happened.
It was just a proposal of asking me if I wanted to take this side job.
So, and to correlate it to the 2020 show, he tells you right there, that was for a job the next day. That was for a job for me to work at Thomas's house. It wasn't to kill his wife. There was no contract. There was no payment. There was nothing. So right there ties the whole thing in. And you should be able to see now, like, oh my God, that phone call makes sense.
And the state's theory is that 1053 phone call is that Thomas called Michael to go up and kill Kelly. That was the go signal. And the state's own witness shot down that timeline.
I mean, because really, you're kind of a shitty lookout. No, I'm being honest. I mean, you're in a pickup truck in the middle of the woods, where you are. You have no way to communicate with them. Did you guys have radios or phones, any way to communicate? So how are you going to let them know somebody came along? You know what I mean? Or if you have no idea where you're from the city of Elmira and you're going to be sitting in the middle of the woods and corny someplace, you're a pretty bad lookout. So why do you think he brought you along?
I'm thinking maybe it might be some type of drug deal or something. It's pitch black. There's no street light, nothing. It's pitch black. And he went walking down the street. And I said 15, 20 minutes passed. Comes back. He said nobody was supposed to be there. The kids were supposed to be at their grandmother's. That's all you mentioned. He didn't tell me that he killed her. He didn't tell me who was in the house. I mean,
The reason I'm asking is your time frames don't really kind of fit up with what we kind of what we know. But I want you to do the best of your recollection. I'm just trying to refresh your memory to try to, make that, see maybe helps you.
Well, I know it was on, but I hate missing it wrong.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. What time was it when you got home? Do you remember what was on TV?
The episode was still on. I don't remember the exact time. I know it was 10 something though. I don't remember the exact time. It was 10 something. Because the announcement was still on.
Okay.
Lamford's timeline is that he was picked up at 9 approximately, drove out to the Clayton residence, was in the woods from 9:38, somewhere between 9:38 and 9:52 because he looks at his phone. He gets driven back and dropped off, and he's home to watch the end of wrestling by 11:05.
All right, so aware of a phone call that Beard got at just before 11 o'clock. Did we know he got a phone call?
Okay.
Were you anywhere near him while he was on the phone at any point?
No.
And that's, again, we're trying to understand the times and what your recall of time is and what, what different investigative steps have shown us that times were when they happened. Everything is linked to phones and whatever now, so we can pinpoint times more accurately than ever. And we know this phone call was received by Michael, and we know there was communication, so, but you don't recall him being on the phone?
Nope.
All right.
Investigation.
Hi, I'm looking for David Beard.
Yeah, speaking.
Hi, this is Jeff from Danny Mini Mart. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hey, thanks for calling
I'm just trying to clarify something. I'm working on that Kelly Clayton murder case down in Steuben County, and I know the police had sought some video from, I think, your Danny Martin number 63.
About Mike Beard coming into the store that night. You said in your statement he came in between 10:45 and 11 o'clock. And
yeah, everything's all on the tape. He came into the store. I mean, literally, he was in the store.
So was it on video?
Yeah, those cameras down there don't lie. Everything's all on video.
Did you ever review it with the police?
I was working the night that he came in, so I know that we have cameras down there. Yeah.
And he was on his bicycle.
He was on a bicycle, yeah.
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 But when he had come in on prior occasions, he used to wear
was in his uniform.
Surf Pro uniform?
Yeah.
But not that night?
No. He was wearing street clothes.
Okay. Was he acting any different?
No, he just looked a little... Just seemed like he had a lot on his mind.
Yeah.
You know,
but you
chatted... he told me he had lost his job.
Lost his job, and then when he left, he said he was going to cool off.
Said he was going to go for a ride to clear his head.
To clear his head, yeah. Okay. All right.
If there was any inclination by that judge to do anything about dismissing charges or anything, it was over by the time the Beard trial finished.
Breaking news, Michael Beard has been found guilty on all charges in the death of Kelly Stage Clayton last year.
Michael Beard was found guilty of 1 count of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole.
I said, so pretty much Michael's trial was my first trial. He said, yes. They were trying to get everything in the media, everything on the record there pertaining to you. They had people testifying at my trial that had nothing to do with Michael. It had everything to do with me. So I didn't have 1 trial. I basically had 2 trials. One I wasn't even a part of.
Jurors will decide the fate of Thomas Clayton.
Clayton is accused of hiring Michael Beard to kill his wife, Kelly Clayton.
Opening statements are set to begin tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Tom Clayton's trial was a very big trial for our county.
The courtroom was packed every day, not just with Kelly's family and Tom Clayton's family, but people who knew them. It was a long and in-depth trial. There was more than 75 witnesses.
The witnesses that they put on the stand, we flipped them all. And you could see, like, the jury was understanding, and they're like, yeah, it seems like they got it, like, there's nothing here. How do you go through an 8-week murder for hire trial, and not once do you ever bring up money?
Because each defendant should have the right to cross-examine every witness that testifies against them.
That judge that said about you were talking about change of venue, so I went and saw him. He said hello to me. I said hello to him. You know what his first question was? Did Michael Beard testify? I said, nope. He goes, and the case didn't get dismissed? I said, nope. He was found guilty. He goes, what the hell was the judge doing? So his point was, Michael Beard and Thomas Clayton are the only 2 people in this entire world that can testify to any of this. And the one person that accused Thomas of everything did not testify. And this is, he was a sitting judge in the county.
Now, Michael Beard never took the stand in my trial. Right then and there, my trial should be thrown out the door, since I was not afforded and given the opportunity to confront my accuser. So instead, the prosecution riddled their tactics to speculation and circumstantial evidence. Now, we all know that he cannot be found guilty of speculation, which goes back to the phone calls between Michael and I, any text messages. Sure, Michael and I had a ton of phone calls back and forth, but he also worked for me for years. So I called Michael, and Michael called me all the time, discussing work and jobs.
The cell phone records turned out to be very pivotal in the investigation.
Cy of ZX Corporation. That's what broke the case. The geolocation data.
ZX specializes in taking large amounts of big data and visually mapping it.
Once we got Cy-Ray involved, he was able to track where the phones were by using the cell towers.
So in this particular case, we took all 67,000 points and we combined them together on a map synced by date and time.
The phones really provided a timeline of interaction, of planning. It showed the number of times that Michael Beard and Thomas Clayton interacted leading up to the murder.
It corroborated everything our 14, 15 months of investigation had uncovered.
Because as an expert witness, like I said, you're supposed to have your information in 30 days before the trial starts. And we got it a month after the trial started. The morning he was going on, they dropped all this stuff on us, and the judge gave us 2 hours to review all that stuff. So you tell me how I'm not justified in getting a Fry hearing to see, in fact, if Cy-Ray was qualified to take the stand.
In Thomas's trial, Cy-Ray testified Xenix is an analytic software that essentially takes raw call detail records from any cell phone provider in the United States, and it allows a quick upload that we take all of the data and we visually map it. Ray Schlatter, questions. Did you alter any of the data that you received from AT&T or from Verizon or from Google? Did you alter any of that data in connection with the production of this report? No. Ray Schlatter, question. Did you alter any of the latitude or longitude entries that you put in this particular program that you have played for the jury here yesterday? No. Or played on Wednesday? No.
I mean, within 5 minutes of them handing us Cy-Ray 70,000 line items, my father knew within 5 minutes something was wrong. And then later that night, he looked at me and he said, there's something wrong with these numbers. They do not add up.
So from the report, the decimal places after any longitude or latitude is anywhere from 2 to 7. Actual KML coordinates compared to actual cell service results. 91,532 records, 85% in the KML file were found in the cell service data, with 15,526 observations unaccounted for, i.e., did not exist in the cell service data and therefore should not have been included in the KML file.
One of the most truest things in our world is math. It is 1 and 1 does not equal 2. There is something wrong and there's something going on. And my father, like I said, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, knew that 1 and 1 didn't equal 2. And it is scientifically impossible for Cy-Ray to do what he did unless he manually altered the cell phone data. I'm not sure, because it's been said to me that Kelly got on the stand at my behalf saying Thomas had nothing to do with this and I still would have been found guilty. And it's also been said to me from a judge that I've known for over 30, 40 years, said to me, you could have 100 trials in Elmira, Corning area, and you'll be found guilty 100 times. There needs to be a change of venue, but you will never be granted one. during your first trial. So the decision was made to continue the trial, and look what happened.
Breaking news out of Steuben County Court.
Thomas Clayton guilty on both first and second-degree murder charges.
At his sentencing, Clayton is given life in prison without parole.
I think that there was an absolute sense of relief. The people that were responsible for taking Kelly's life were held accountable.
And once you go to prison, it's virtually impossible to get out. They know that. They know the struggle you have to go to instead of doing the right thing. And we're going to put people on this stand with integrity who do not lie and manipulate the system. Not only am I looking out for myself, I'm also looking out for the next person. Because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was written for everyone the same. And the courts, district attorney, judges must follow certain procedures.
So I got selected for jury trial about 10 years ago or something. And so I went, and you do the questionnaire, and you raise your hand, and you answer the questions. Right? The judge throws out these questions, like they do that broad delimitation of people, right? They ask questions. If you raise your hand, that means you have a problem or whatever. So the question was, do you believe the testimony of a law enforcement officer is more truthful than a civilian, or a layperson witness? Would you take the testimony of an officer over a layperson witness? And I raised my hand, and I think I said I'll come up or whatever. So I approached the bench, and I said, yeah, I do. The judge came unglued. He said, what? I said, yeah, that guy took a sworn oath to uphold the law. He, as an officer, he should be beyond reproach. And if he's lying, he should be fired and thrown in jail. Needless to say, I didn't testify. I got tossed. Because I gave, and in reality, after going through the Beard trial and the Clayton trial, the people that are the most deceptive and untrustworthy are law enforcement.
I understand the need to make an arrest and close this case, and but the odd thing about that is that if they had never found out about Michael Beard, what would they have had against Thomas? Nothing. Nothing. But because they did find out about Michael Beard and found out that he was the killer, now they're between a rock and a hard place with their case against Tom. And I can only imagine what they're thinking once they realized who the real killer was. But they've already arrested Tom. What do we do now? What do we do now? We've already announced to the world that Tom did this and he targeted his children. We can't just drop the charges now. We got to find a way to salvage our case. And that's what they did.
The focus shifted from Thomas Clayton doing the crime himself. Now it became a murder for hire.
Michael Beard confessed to being hired by Thomas Clayton to murder Kelly Clayton.
Law enforcement, right? All these guys investigated these cases. And it was kind of a joint investigation, right? How it relates to Mr. Beard and Thomas. And it's the same investigators for both. And then you put them up on the stand and they swear to tell the truth. But more times than not, their patent answer is, I do not recall. I do not recall. So then what are you doing? Why am I paying your salary? You shouldn't even be an officer. And then another thing that's extremely problematic for me is this whole concept of immunity granted to judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, that they can get away with lying and cheating and they're granted immunity. And police officers, the United States Supreme Court ruled that a police officer is allowed to lie to invoke a confession from a suspect. So my first question is, when does the police officer stop lying? That his whole job is to lie on a daily basis. You don't just turn that off. And if in your mind you are so convinced that this is your guy, like Thomas, you will do anything in your power to sway and move the evidence in that direction that points to his guilt. So, by allowing police officers to lie, you've basically granted them license to lie all the time, because there's no way to prove when they stop lying.
We're going to talk about the canine that responded that night and the handler. So he gets there, there's a trooper, handler, lots of experience, probably one of the most credible witnesses in this case. I like this guy. He testified just extremely credible. And so he gets there that night. It's been raining a little bit, it's damp out, and he tells Swan, the deputy there, that it's ideal conditions for a track. Do you want me to do that? And he says, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He says, but I gotta wait till the undersheriff gets here. Well, the undersheriff gets there and they said, yeah, they want you to do it. So he does what they call a casting. He casts his dog on the scent coming out the garage door, the man door, the one that it was open, that door was open, so they started there. And so the dog picks up a scent and takes off heading east into the woods. And he comes to a pond, a little bridge, then a pond. And then he said the scent was so strong that the dog actually jumped in the pond. They end up coming out to a dirt driveway, Tom's neighbor to the east. And he loses the scent. But while he's there, he notices fresh tire tracks in the mud. So he goes back, tells everybody, I lost the scent. But he tells them about the tire tracks. So they go over and take some photographs of the tire tracks. And while they're there, they also see some boot prints. And they take pictures of those. That they've taken pictures of the tires, and now they have the pictures of the tire tracks. They don't match. We've got the tire tracks in the muddy driveway to the east of Tom's house. When Michael Beard was arrested, he tells them that when he went up there that night, he parked near a country gate. Well, that gate location is west of Tom's, almost the same distance as it is east to west, another couple hundred yards or more to the west. You can see it in the aerial photographs. There's a clear gate over this driveway. And I only learned about this because in the time distance information that was done by one of their investigators, he puts right on the top of the page, his starting point was the green gate, and that's what color it is. So they got that information from Michael Beard. So what's interesting about that is that that's not the way the dog went. The dog went east, and there's nothing to the west. So that supports the third party involvement. There was another witness in the case, very hostile witness. His name was Larry Johnson. But Larry Johnson also worked for Thomas, and Michael Beard and Larry Johnson were friends. And Michael Beard had been fired from Serpro, and Larry Johnson had been fired from this other restoration company. Neither one of them likes Thomas. You know, Beard never came out and said that, but he didn't like Tom. You know, he thought Tom had screwed over him, and he was partly responsible for him getting fired, even though Tom was trying to help him get a job. We didn't find this out until, I don't think it came out until the trial. when Larry Johnson testified. And again, he was very hostile, but he describes a time himself and Michael Beard drove up to Tom's house on September 23rd, so 5 days before this happens, okay? So he said they drove up there that night, it was late, and he claims that he sat in the truck. Sound familiar? He sits in the truck, Michael Beard disappears, and he's gone for a half hour to an hour before he comes back. And Larry Johnson's sitting there that whole time. They were casing the place. This was a dry run, so to speak. Because it was, so when it actually happened 5 days later, it was the same scenario. Go up, park the truck, gets out of the truck, leaves one behind. But the question is, was that third party Larry Johnson? Because Larry Johnson, unlike Michael Beard, is more like Tom's size. But he's about the same height, same weight. So if he was wearing a black long sleeve shirt and blue jeans, could that have been who Charlie saw? The DNA they found on the door in the hallway, I think it was Charlie's bedroom door, there was a bloody stain there. And of course they believed it was Kelly's blood. But they did a special DNA test on that. It's called YSTR, which focuses only on male DNA. So it eliminates all female DNA, and they're only looking for male DNA. And they find male DNA, and it has very similar characteristics or points of location, alleles they call them, that match Michael Beard, but not exclusively saying that it's him. And in fact, the report says that it could be a family member, anybody in his male lineage. Understood? Okay. So I think that's where that came from, that they weren't positive that this was Michael Beard, and it may have been a family member. And he had 2 adult sons that he had been in contact recently around the time that this happened. One of them was Michael Jr., and the other one was Maurice.
What evidence can you point to that shows that you're innocent?
In the victim's hands is the DNA of an unknown source. Doesn't match my profile. On the victim's clothing, again, DNA that does not match my profile.
The fact that there may or may not have been other DNA on Kelly Clayton really, to me, has no bearing on this case whatsoever.
But what I did see was someone else down there. Who it was, I couldn't tell you at that point in time, because I never seen her face.
He originally said Tom, but then later he said someone. Handed him this stick. So that could have been Larry Johnson.
I have the right to confront my accuser under the Constitution, and I would never afford her given that opportunity to do so, since they used all of his statements in trial.
The light is on in the garage, and the laundry room kitchen area is dark, which is how you enter into the house through the garage. When walking into the kitchen, I noticed a person that appeared to be Kelly lying on the floor dead. Freaking out, I go back the same way I came in, and another person appears that it appeared to be Tom, that had Tom's stature, size, and height in a full mask. Once out of the house, this person hands me the yellow handle weapon outside of the house.
And the other thing that tends to point to a third party is when the police go in there and take their early photographs before they put down any of their evidence markers, they take a picture of the stairway leading into the basement. That's where Tom kept his guns. You go down the cellar stairs, there's a landing, there's a little kid's pink table overturned on the stairs. So that suggested to us that somebody went down there. So that they go in together, and one of them went to the Kelly's bedroom to look for the cash box, while the other one went down to check out the safe, just in case it might be open. I don't know. But the evidence kind of suggests that that's what happened. So that was kind of a red flag, if you will. Pink table, red flags.
Law enforcement claims there was no jewelry missing. What's interesting about that is they never asked Thomas for an inventory of jewelry that was in the house. They never took him through the house and asked him what is missing and not missing, including the cash box and anything in the safe. About 3 months after September, sometime around December 2015, the family reached out and requested the father's watch that Kelly had received, I'm assuming, in around May 2012. That watch, upon information and belief, has never been recovered. The Steuben County Sheriff's Department was the lead investigation, and the New York State Police assisted them. Under Sheriff Allard, Investigator Lewis, and Captain Eric Tyner all worked for the Steuben County Sheriff's Department. They all knew that Thomas stated that there was a cash box underneath the bed. Was there anything else said by Mr. Clayton during the course of the interview? We did talk about valuables in the home, if he had anything valuable in the house. Wetmore, what was the conversation in that regard? He had stated that there was a small safe under the bed upstairs and a safe in the basement. Did you include that in your handwritten statement? I did not. Or even in your summary? No. The Sheriff's Department was well aware that there was a lockbox underneath. According to Thomas Clayton, there was a lockbox underneath the master bed. And as of today, that lockbox has never been recovered. We now know that there's nothing in that statement about this money in a safe under the bed, right? Correct. Slaughter, you didn't put that in there. Correct. Slaughter, and the reason you didn't put some things in the written statement was because you didn't think it was important? Right. Kuzmenko, no. I would say I probably just forgot.
And worst of all, most of them got promotions off of my case. They got promoted to other jobs, and now they're not even around. So they're trying to wash their hands of my case because they know what's coming down the road. Because once I do get exonerated and I go back to court, this is the far from the last time you will hear from me, because I will not stop until the truth is told and their actions are held accountable.
Now, this is, in layman's term, is a signed confession.
Those aren't my words. Prior to that statement, they came and they laid down the whole scenario to me on what I supposedly had done. So the more resistance that I gave them, my family starts to come into play with this. So I'm telling them, if you keep my family out of this, I said, you can say whatever you want to say, and I'll deal with it.
Holly Barrett was Michael Beard's partner. They had been fighting and he left. That fits in with getting a call from Thomas at 10:53. Holly says something that actually really cracks the case. Thomas Clayton had approached Michael Beard about burning his house down for $10,000.
I don't know nothing about $10,000.
But they kind of had you put that in your statement. Yeah. Because when they testified, they tell the story a little bit different, saying that they're interviewing Mike. They don't talk about me being in the next room, but and Mike had been lying to them about some things, and then they leave and they come back and they say, Mike, we know about the $10,000. Is that why you killed Kelly? So they're telling Mike that they got that information from you.
Yeah. I didn't get that. I got that information from them. They said Mike said that.
Yeah.
So this $10,000 figure didn't come from Mike, didn't come from you, came from the cops.
Pretty much, from my understanding, because I didn't know nothing about no $10,000.
What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And if you tell my lawyer that you have no case, then why are you still taking it to trial when you already had the man responsible for the death of my wife?
Do you know anything about his history? This is going back 1994, I believe. What was the name of the county down there? Bamberg County, South Carolina. That there'd been a murder and it involved a relative of Michael Beard. We didn't know too much about it, but there was never any conviction. So I did some searching in the court records in Bamberg County, and I found a filing that showed that Michael Beard, along with a co-defendant, had been charged with armed robbery and murder. Michael Beard and Dennis Stevens had conspired to rob some money from Michael's father. He'd just gotten his Social Security check. So they broke in and things didn't go well, and his dad ended up getting killed, murdered. There was an investigation and it drew out for about 2 years. Michael Beard never went to trial, and they dropped the charges. But that was very eerily similar to what happened in Thomas's case. Very eerily similar.
And that was years before in South Carolina.
Yeah, it was in, I'm quite sure it was like 1994. So we don't know what the scenario was inside the residence. You know, who was the one that actually killed Michael's father. But they worked together, so they're both responsible.
What was the manner of homicide? Do you know?
An axe handle.
What? What? I thought you were going to say a gun, something, you know, that could never have been even remotely similar. Just that manner of homicide.
Yeah, that's what really rung a bell with me. And there's no doubt in my mind that the police learned those same details. Same MO, if you will.
Same everything. Holy.
You know what the MO is, right?
Modus operandi.
So.
Is that, how do you pronounce it? Because I'm probably on
there.
Yeah,
that's a...
Modus operandi?
Yeah.
Operandi?
Yeah.
What? You want me to go out and come up with $10,000 so you could take, so that you got proof Tom hired him?
They actually said that to you?
Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't have $10,000. If I had $10,000, I definitely wouldn't be in this shitty apartment. And my kids won't be wearing shoes from Walmart.
Everybody that worked at ServPro knew about it. They knew Thomas was buying a building with cash for ServPro. It was common knowledge. So Michael Beard knew there was a lot of money. Larry Johnson knew there was a lot of money, probably through Michael.
His only intent that night was to go up there and snatch the money and get out.
And lead sheet 457, which is when Michael Beard is in Steuben County Jail along with a Mr. Campbell. Mr. Beard tells Mr. Campbell that my son was to do the murder and I was just supposed to clean up. District Attorney Wetmore withheld Brady evidence from Mr. Clayton that can be corroborated. DNA conclusions in relation to Mr. Beard's son being involved in the murder. And it's clearly stated in conclusions. Those DNA tests never had any samples of the sons to make a comparison, just Michael Beard. So, but their conclusion is that you cannot rule out the paternal member, male, and that was not done. The same Brady evidence was withheld from the Steuben County court judge, Bradstreet, when he was making his decision in regards to dismissing the indictment due to defective grand jury on July 26, 2016. At the very least, This information, these two lead sheets, should have been provided before opening statements were given in the People versus Clayton murder case. Within the rules of professional conduct, it's clearly stated that if there's an oversight by the prosecutor, he can hand this information over and there will be no repercussions.
After 5 years of being convicted, I finally got missing leads in my case, 2 of which directly correlate and are so strong in their presentation that there's no way to argue that we didn't let Warren, the district attorney, and his team didn't hide those on purpose from me. They're direct correlations.
He had 3 or 4 chances to turn this over, and he knew about it for 16 months, never turned it over, and then it was turned over 4 years after the trial concluded and the appeal was over. I'm not a big believer in defund the police and all this kind of stuff, but I'm a huge believer in accountability. And if you want the justice system to be fixed, remove immunity.
Well, sure. A district attorney, their position is evaluated, if you will, on their performance. And assistant district attorneys the same way. So their rating basically comes from their conviction percentage, if you will. So yeah, there's an incentive there for them to get a conviction at any cost. And that really doesn't make it right. So it's a competition. It doesn't have anything to do with justice. It has to do with winning. But I don't know that we're ever going to change that.
If you got rid of immunity and allowed the public to sue over wrongful actions of law enforcement, judges, and prosecutors, it would fix it real fast.
And let people see the true facts instead of the bits and pieces they give you on TV and in the trial, and that the district attorneys and people in law enforcement try and hide.
When I wrote and published my second book, I wrote a short chapter. It's called The Power of Authority. The very core of our justice system is built upon law enforcement institutions comprised of highly qualified and trained individuals who are entrusted with the full-time responsibility of using their power and authority to serve and protect the interests of those they serve. Therefore, whether on duty or off, they are rightly held to a higher standard. However, that does not mean they are deserving of our blind trust or allegiance. Should we cave into that temptation, we surrender our obligation to ensure that justice is done each and every time. Prosecutors, in particular, have more power and control over life, liberty, reputation, and freedom than any other person in our society. When they're at their very best, they can be a valuable asset to our system of justice. However, when they engage in acts of malice and misconduct, they can be one of the worst. In doing so, they abuse their authority by bending, breaking, or creating their own rules. At times, they even justify committing criminal acts, all in the name of justice, thereby undermining the integrity and jeopardizing the entire system they swore to uphold. To make matters worse, they may actually believe they're doing the right thing, yet they engage in their misconduct surreptitiously while hiding behind the shield of their authority, knowing it's unlikely they'll ever be held accountable. Understandably, police and prosecutors have challenging and demanding jobs. While most of these men and women work effectively within the constraints of the law per their oath of office, others do not. Therefore, society's trust and allegiance must be earned, especially now, when law enforcement tactics have fallen under heavy scrutiny, with protests springing up across the country, appeals for justice and cries against injustice, together making their demands for much needed change. It's been said that trust, once lost, is like a stone that's been cast, a word that's been said, or a time after it's gone. In other words, it can't be restored. Unfortunately, when errors or wrongful acts are discovered during the pursuit of justice, they're often viewed as a failure or sign of weakness. Sadly, they are sometimes remedied by turning a blind eye, avoiding, rejecting, denying, or even hiding their existence. When this happens, the integral foundation of our justice system is threatened, likely resulting in a miscarriage of justice. Fortunately, there is an alternative. The discovery of any error or wrongful act can be viewed not as a failure or sign of weakness, but rather an opportunity to fix the problem. When you know something is not right or not just, there's a moral obligation to do something about it. In other words, if something is wrong, make it right.
Did you ask Michael Beard to kill Kelly? No. Did you offer Michael Beard any money to kill Kelly? No. Did you ask Michael Beard to set fire to the house? No. Did you tell Michael Beard a key was on the garage shelf? No. Did you tell Michael Beard the location of a sledgehammer handle at your home? No. Did you threaten Michael Beard in any way to kill Kelly? No. Did you lie to any question on this test? No. Conclusion of this examiner. After careful analysis of the polygraph charts, it is the opinion of the examiner that no deception was indicated to the above relevant questions. The poly score produced results of no deception. The object scoring system produced results of no significant reactions.
First and foremost, I am extremely proud and honored to call Thomas my son.
In a statement to ABC News, Clayton's family says their support for him is unwavering, and they pray that the justice system will right this incredible wrong.
That if this was your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your son, your aunt, your uncle, someone that was close to you, and they went and had nefarious charges dropped on them and they brought to trial, would you want this to happen to them? And this is a big reason why I